T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey folks, welcome to the Launch Sequence Podcast. Another week for you with some good discussion on Star Citizen. And this week, I've got my favorite box on the show to talk about boxes because 3.24 is in Evocati testing. Cargo missions have finally landed in players' hands. And a change we've been waiting 6-7 years for, I think, is upon us. So today I have Jack Axton, my regular when it comes to cargo box and commodity discussion. Thank you for joining me today as my favorite box. Welcome onto the show. How you doing?
Of course, I am more than happy to be here. Good morning, everybody. I am thrilled to finally be able to talk about some changes to gameplay that is near and dear to my heart.
It's and today, in fact, we finally get what I like to call the great unboxing of Jack Axton.
Yes.
The face reveal. My friend is here in the flesh.
Good morning, everybody.
Finally, yes, I think you've been on the show, what, 2-3 times now as a box?
Yeah, like 2 or 3 times as a box. And, I always said that I was a real boy. And honestly, I probably prefer the box, but I am a real man made of flesh.
Cool.
So
final form. It's going to be a good talk because I think your cat's there, right? To join you. Important guest.
Yeah. So if you see a tail walk by the screen, he's here.
Good. I've also got a Pico here to join me. I felt like I also needed some moral support on my end.
That is a nice Pico.
Yeah,
it's probably more behaved than what I've got.
Help me with the background here. Yes, we're in the new place. If anybody noticed, and it is phenomenal to finally be moved into a spot where we can kind of control everything that's going on. We've got better internet. We've got more room, and I've got a fan, so I'm not burning up. But,
the fan is needed.
Yeah. Oh man, I bet it's hot where you are. You're southwest.
Yeah, south in Arkansas, and it was 90 degrees last night at midnight. And to put that in Celsius, hold on, let me just.
Too much, I would say. It's like 26. 27?
32 degrees Celsius at midnight with 85% humidity. So
that's, my gosh.
Awful. Yeah.
That's terrible, dude.
Like I was trying to walk the dog and it was just, no, couldn't do it. Awful. So yeah, no, it sucks. The fan is needed. Like I've got a fan right now. It's off because it's morning, so I can tolerate it right now. But yeah.
Dude, that's terrible. Well, thank you for joining me for this show. I know it's pretty early where you are. Got you up early for the important topic, but like I said, you have actually gotten, this kind of surprised me because we've been planning on doing this episode for like 3 months, right?
I know, like it just keeps getting pushed back. And,
we were talking about this back in like April or March, and even just this week, we were kind of hit with the disappointment that Star Citizen Live wasn't going to have the info we wanted, hands-on with the mission, but you actually got to get into an Evocati test with these new cargo missions, right?
I did. Now I'm going to warn you. It took me about 4 hours to do one, just because of issues with the patch, which had nothing to do with the mission itself. But I actually made it in and was able to do 3 of the intro missions. Now, there's an issue right now where rep is not stacking, so you basically just repeat the same intro mission, which right now it's basically delivers 6 boxes from a low orbit station to the city below. Unless it's Hurston, then you take it to Sakura Sun or one of the other distribution centers. And it was actually really fun. It was really enjoyable. Like it was simple,
Okay.
I mean, if you want, I can just launch into the whole like step-by-step process with it.
Actually, I think for the people who, I know you guys want the new info, but for the people who haven't actually got to experience this stuff, I want to lay down the context here because this is a huge change. And for somebody who's just getting into Star Citizen, maybe in the last 6 months to year, it might be a little bit confusing as to why people care so much about it. So I do want to start first with talking about what the problems with the current model are, what we have been playing for years now, and why I think even you yourself have said like it's just not worth doing.
Yeah. It's like right now, the only thing we really have in a similar vein are the delivery missions, which are like the handheld boxes. And those are some of the most broken missions we have in Star Citizen. Like, they look like they're designed to be like the newbie mission where you can actually learn how to play. And it is
Yeah.
the roughest, absolute toughest thing to complete. Like, you'll get 6 boxes loaded up in an Aurora, get paid $5K. You miss 1 box, you lose everything. And, or you get the one where it's like, hey, we lost a box in a place filled with 20 dudes who are all going to shoot you. There's nothing in this mission prep to let you know that. Good luck, newbie. And yeah, it's any sort of transportation mission that we've had for a while has just been fundamentally flawed and not fun. And these are a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And,
those missions, besides the fact that they could require you to fly all the way across the system and deliver 1 box and give you like not enough money for the fuel.
yeah.
But those were the go-to. A lot of us would tell people to do those as their first missions, and then I don't know when it happened, but they just got so unstable and so unreliable. And it's always been a pain. They've also always been just like single box little courier missions, right?
Yeah, and like they've got them now where it's like, hey, deliver like 12 boxes, but you're getting paid literally like less than 1,000 per box. And with a lot of the way the other missions scale, it's not worth it.
Right.
And they're trying to fix that now, but just for years it just has not been worth it.
Yeah. And it's also like the commodities are just, they don't make sense really. You're not really taking things where they're supposed to go.
Yeah, it's just placeholder names. That's all it is. And yeah, no, it's so nice to actually see what feels like a worthwhile mission.
Why would you say it's a worthwhile mission?
Because it actually makes sense, like what you're delivering. Like I've only done the intro mission so far, but like you're actually delivering large SCU, size crates. Like it's actual SCU instead of 6 units. You guys remember units? 6 units of tungsten. It's like there's no way that 6 units of tungsten is worth 1,000 credits, but now it actually feels like you're delivering cargo that makes sense instead of just like a good job, buddy. You did the RPG quest. It actually feels like you're actually doing trucking. Touching the freight a bit more than a regular trucker would, but still, that's the fun of it.
So your first mission was just 6 SCU of cargo?
Yeah. Pretty much they all start out at 6 SCU.
Is that
in fact
6 1 SCU boxes?
Yes, 6 1 SCU boxes. So you do have to move all 6, but you don't have to move them super far. Basically, once you load up in your hangar, in the personal hangar, you've got the freight elevators sprinkled all over the hangar. You just load them up there, move them from the hangar to your ship, and you're good.
Did you get to try the hover trolley?
It's bugged. I tried it. I wanted to try it because the hover trolley would actually make really good sense for these style of missions. The problem is the hover trolley was spawning as cargo on the cargo grid and could not be moved. Like it had to be basically you'd have to tractor beam it off, but it couldn't be tractor beamed, so it was stuck. But the hover trolleys right now can only be bought at the orbital stations, but they're really, really nice. Like once they're going to work, they're going to be really nice because you can just plunk SCU down on top of them.
And it does seem like if the first missions you're running are 6 SCU, I'm guessing a lot of those early ones would be less than 12 SU, which I think is what those hover trolleys are running with. So it actually might be a really useful thing for most people, but you can't really fit it on your ship. So
yeah, like, for most people that have like a Cutlass or Freelancer, like it would be fine for those intro missions because that way you can move multiple SCUs at once.
Yeah.
Instead of having to do tractor beams, one at a time. But if you're running like an Avenger Titan or something like that, you're just gonna have to move it without the hover trolley.
Okay. So these missions are still starting out as sort of courier missions. They're really small scale for these first entry level ones. Um, Besides the fact that it was 6SU, and like you said, the commodities made sense for the location, was there anything else functionally that felt all that interesting besides you were also using your tractor beam and stuff to load everything?
Yes. Okay. So one of my biggest issues with the delivery missions, let's say you've got 20 boxes and you miss one. The whole thing is a failure, right? This has partial completion. So I went down to a distribution center. I got 6 boxes to deliver. I do 5 out of 6. I'm loading the 6th one, and I have a huge bug comes through. Box gets blown away off into the distance. I lose it. Still can complete it for partial credit, partial payment. So it's not like, oh, you did 90% of the work, but one bad thing happened, you get nothing. You can still get partial. So as long as you're doing it in good faith, there's actually a confirm button that says, hey, I did the best I could, and you still get something. And that is a huge step towards actually being able to still progress. Because otherwise, like all the other missions, when that happens, you just get so deflated, you know?
That's the worst part of,
And-
like you said, that's the biggest problem.
Yeah. So it's really, really nice that we can still do like a partial completion and still get something for it. I mean, it was only like, 3K, but still, like as an intro
That's-
mission, that's not bad.
Yeah, that is, this sounds like it makes cargo missions going back to being the default new player
Yeah.
experience kind of mission.
I mean, like you could do that with an Aurora, in 2 trips.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
okay. So can the Aurora carry 6SCU?
depending on the Aurora, you can go anywhere, I think, from 3 to 6, depending on which Aurora you have. But with the way the missions are set up, you don't have to take all the cargo at once. You can do multiple
Okay.
trips.
That's what I was going to ask you next.
Yeah. So, like, I did it with a Caterpillar because, of course. But yeah, no, you can actually do the mission in stages. So you could take 1 SCU at a time, 2 SCU, 3 SCU, whatever you wanted to do. My mission did not have a timer that I saw. I know that some of the larger ones are supposed to have timers, but
Okay.
I don't think the intro one did. But yeah, no, you could actually do it in multiple stages.
Man,
So you could do it Elite Dangerous style.
see, this definitely sounds like it's more of a system that was built around the idea of cargo hauling rather than the box deliveries we had, which were just
Yes.
so rudimentary. They sound very forgiving and very based around the idea that your job might not go perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like exactly. That's what it is. And it's so nice. Like even dealing with like the Evo drudgery of trying to get out of a hangar for 4 hours, like it was to do the mission was so satisfying in its simplicity, Like I don't have to do the whole thing. That's nice, I lost a box and I'm not going to get screwed over.
So from your early experience, and we're still pretty early into this talk, but from your early experience here so far, these cargo missions are a resounding success.
Yes. Yes. Elliot did good. They are
All
like
right.
of the 2 that I have completed, they did good.
Nice.
They did really good.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, like I can't wait to see the larger ones and see like if they actually do like larger style boxes. But for now, it's really nice.
I really like the idea of being able to do it in multiple trips. I hope the next step would be that, I know they're still working on the ownership of boxes and stuff, but I hope the next step would be you can actually let somebody else take this for you. Oh, I took a cargo mission and I've got 3 people with hull A's and I'm actually paying them to do the shipments for me rather than myself getting out in the ship and flying because I'll just crash into the space station and die.
Think you can actually right now.
What?
Yeah, because okay, so the boxes are actually tagged as part of a contract. So it doesn't really matter who loads them up as long as it gets delivered. And since anybody can just drop them in the freight elevator, you're like, hey, go run this right quick down to the freight elevator. Anybody can access it. And then like once they've done it, you can just hit complete.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So, like, believe me, I'll test it a lot more once I can.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Like even in the talk from last Friday, they said that you'd actually be able to do stuff like that, and like if you lost a box, you could replace it with the exact same type, on your own dime and still complete it.
Okay. Yeah, I may have missed that part. So I guess that works out because you're not getting paid for the commodities. You're getting paid for the contract that was made.
Yeah.
And something else that they've talked about throughout that, the idea behind the way you're getting paid and how this all works is that these are factoring into the economy. The places that you're picking this stuff up from, like you said, actually have a reason for delivering or receiving these goods. Are we getting an actual dynamic economy here?
I don't know. I know we're still waiting for the economy to be plugged in 3.24 because they keep saying they're not looking for feedback on it yet, but I would love to see that. And seeing some of the background squiggles that we saw in that episode of Inside Star Citizen,
Yeah.
they looks like they're really working on their economy there. And I'm hoping, I'm really hoping, because like right now the economy we have is just I've seen a few snippets. They've changed the way RMC is handled now in 3.24. Like it's still going to be a cash cow, but it's not going to be the bulk freight that we've been seeing, and that kind of makes me excited. That's the only preview I've seen, but I'm excited because it looks like it's making it to where small like trading is going to be the feature of more like medium-sized ships, instead of super bulk haulers, and that'll be nice to see.
Yeah, it seems like they're breaking up the idea of what you're actually hauling based on the ship size. And one of the squiggles, like you were talking about, was a really good one. I've sent them over to you. I'm pulling up that one right now. The hierarchy of trade, how it seems like the big jobs are meant to be between your jump points and your LEO stations, and then your supply grade jobs are between like your LEOs and your large ground locations, and then you also have small grade jobs that are like local or planetary that go between different outposts and stuff. Is this the kind of thing that you were picturing when you imagined cargo hauling rolling out in Star Citizen?
Yes, because like right now everything that we've got in the current version of Star Citizen focuses on the more cargo you can get, the better. There's nothing that's really like, oh man, I've only got 16 SCU, but I'm hauling some really important stuff. And looking at this, that's the direction I want to go. That's definitely the direction I want to go. Because when you've got everybody in Caterpillars and C2s and Hull Cs and eventually ironclads and things like that, like what is there to do for the prospecting freelancer or the Cutlass or someone under Zeus CL?
Yeah.
Like there's not really an economy there for them right now. And with this shifting to the large ships doing your bulk hauling and leaving trading to the smaller to medium sized, that's just that's where it should have been all along.
Yeah, and it gets those people out of the way too, of the newcomers.
Yeah,
because they don't get drowned out.
Exactly. Like, man, like a newcomer trying to trade right now is like, oh, gee golly, I'm gonna go run some gold because that's one of the three things that I could, make money on. And if they don't get shot by a pirate, they're gonna have to sit there and wait 45 minutes just to fill up on a meaningful amount,
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, never mind. I was going to complain on behalf of the newbie trader again, but I was just going to go off on a tangent. Go ahead.
So the newbie trader needs somebody in their court. All right.
Yeah. Just I've seen some poor folks starting out in Aurora. It's like, oh, honey, no, no, not yet.
And it's just so it's important because we've talked about how this was a beginner style missions, these courier missions we used to have with the 1/8 SCU boxes. Yeah. And you'd be like, oh yeah, you go do that because it teaches you where to go and it teaches you the game and you get to fly around. But now it's like, okay, go do that because you can progress from there. You can learn how cargo works and then you can choose where you want to go from there and maybe do jobs a little bit differently. Maybe, like we said, you do want to run that route multiple times with the same ship, or maybe you want to do it with a friend, buy one mission and go and complete it together, because you can do that with other missions, mining and FPS and bounty hunting. It's nice that not only is cargo going to allow you to do that, but it doesn't sound like you have to share the mission to do it.
No. Like, as long as the cargo actually gets sent down the freight elevator, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you can do it a bit more organically, or, pay someone to go do it. And they would probably assume that you've got a mission for it, obviously. But yeah, you could do it. You could subcontract it if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Now I'm looking at one of these other charts that they had on the screen that I sent over to you, availability of bulk commodities. And they've got this really interesting diagram that was mostly covered up by their picture, but it shows a little bit of like the map that you would be flying for certain commodities on certain routes. What do you think of that?
So I'm assuming that the colored squiggles represent the types of commodities. I also really enjoy the tungsten that we've got listed over here.
Tungsten.
But tungsten is my favorite. But looking at these loops, it looks like they're trying to make it to where certain commodities have like a major loop. Like, okay, so quartz, this teal color.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people can see that. They're just going to have to assume.
Yeah, just picture it in your mind.
Yeah. Looks like there's an overlap between Microtech and Hurston. So there's going to be a lot of quartz freighting, it looks like, assuming between those two. So depending on what you want to freight, if that's going there, like what are we looking at commodity wise, and are these actually going to matter like on a tier? Like, is one going to pay more? Like, if I want to focus on titanium, am I going to have to focus like Crusader to ArcCorp, just because that's where the most of the money is going to be? And you also have to figure out each planetary location has its own like trucking companies, like Kovalex, Red Wind, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, who is going to be in what corner and who is going to be covering which type of commodity. And I really, really wish we could see this whole thing so I could actually read it.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, why are you guys hiding that one? Give me more of this. This looks really interesting. And you bring up a good point that they all have their own shipping companies locally to each planet, because you've got this diagram that we're looking at. It's showing your refineries that are cheapest, closest, or fastest. And then it's also showing you 7 different commodities, which I'm sure will expand or already have expanded. These might just be the most important ones. And that, combined with the variability of different companies and the reputation change they have, and then this is getting a little bit further ahead, but also with the possibility that they will make planets orbit. Seems like it makes this an incredibly complicated sort of profession in the best kind of way.
Because also, like, with planets revolving. Yeah, that's the right word, right? Yeah. Resolution? Orbiting. Yeah, orbiting. Like, suddenly a quick run between Hurston in one part of the season becomes a much longer run. So, will that start to affect prices as well?
Yeah.
Because, like, when Microtech is close to Crusader, like, all that titanium is just going to be so easy to run back and forth.
Yeah.
That's when you start actually, putting in like a more fuel efficient quantum drive that takes longer once it gets further out too. That'll be nice to see, some of those long drives from jump point to jump point.
Because you have that too. You're right, man. There's so many levels to this. You have quantum drives that are fast in a long distance but have slow acceleration, and you have quantum drives that are really fast in a short distance with fast acceleration but not a high top speed. So you might, like, if you're running those planet to moon routes, you might want a different quantum drive in your ship than if you're running those LEO to jump point routes, even though it's the same exact ship, same commodities.
Exactly. And just looking at it all, like I'm chomping at the bit to get whatever this is. Yeah, and I know I probably won't see that implementation for like years, but still.
Yeah. This is, what we're looking at, it's not a guarantee that this will all be set in stone for 324, but it does sound like they are very much on the path for this. And from what we've seen of monthly reports over the last year, I would say, pretty regular updates from the economy team about balancing commodities, weapons, ammo, all of this stuff. And it could be that they've gotten a lot of the work to get this working done already.
And I'm hoping. I want to finally see it baked in.
Yeah.
Like I keep hearing they're doing the updates, and it's like, okay, well, I'm still paying more for a T-shirt in game than I am a missile. So
Yeah.
whatever you want to implement, that I'm ready.
Yeah, the economy stuff, you know, they started with the ship prices in 323. I do hope in this monthly report, we were talking about them earlier. Like I said, every monthly report's been talking about this, but this one and this recent one, they did talk about a lot more of the pricing structures that they were working on. I could pull it up here real quick. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm a captive audience.
Well, I guess I'm wondering, when you do, while I'm looking this up, I guess another question I have for you is, looking at this diagram of the loops that were running, you pointed out Quartz having a loop between Microtech and Hurston. One of the more exciting parts of that to me is going back to, again, the bulk shipments versus the supply grade and the small loop shipments. Not only do you have Quartz going to the Microtech system, but it could be that there's just one specific outpost on one specific moon that is asking for all of that. And you, being the large grade cargo hauler, are shipping 200 SU of Quartz out to the Microtech space station. But that is only so that 5 other small grade shippers can then run the route from that Microtech space station out to the moon. So it's like there are chains of missions that could have players working together to complete these. And my question for you is, I think one that I've asked you before in another show: where do you think the missions for those shipments come from? Do you think that the planet the moon outpost puts it out first, and then the station grabs onto that and sends out another mission for the bulk grade? Or do you think it just starts from the station putting one out and then it makes it kind of work from there?
I feel like it would probably go station first. Like they would probably do like the automated quanta thing where they put the mission out. If no one takes it, it eventually autofills and then puts the mission out for the smaller locations. Again, I could just be talking out of my backside there, but it seems like it would probably go large, like your supply grade first, or not supply grade, but like bulk grade, and then hit it out for the supplies. Because it always seems like it goes large distribution and then your smaller distributors first.
Yeah, but when you're talking about an economy, generally that large distributor, well, I guess this changes because sometimes people are literally looking to create the demand for their supply. But I feel like the demand from those small outposts comes first, and then the large station is like, oh, okay, we need to supply more of this stuff. Let's put out a call to get more.
No, that's fair. No, I've been looking at just like at a game standpoint too.
Right. Yeah.
But like looking at that, I mean, you could be right. I could be looking at that backwards. Like once you start getting multiple hits for, locations needing quartz, then a supplier could just be looking for bulk quartz. Yeah, no, I think that would make more sense looking at this graph now.
But then that gets really complicated because then it's like, I mean, I don't even know how to start communicating that. How does the station take all those missions and send them out? Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a lot.
I mean, like being a game, I think they'll just fake it. Like it'll be like a propped up economy, as long as you don't look too far behind the plaster and the curtains and whatnot. Like it'll look like a real economy, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I don't need it to be like 100% realistic economy. Like if I've got 5 places needing quartz, and then Quartz R Us out of Microtech says, "Hey man, we need 3,000 quartz," and no one takes it. Eventually, it'll just fill it with the invisible quanta, and then have the missions for the little guys, and I'm okay with that.
But they've had Tony Z hard at work in the basement on this simulation for so long. Got to get the real thing.
I mean, if he's got to fake it, I'm okay with it. Like Tony Z needs some sunlight. Like guy's been buried in the basement for way too long. Like is he still alive? Has anybody seen Tony Z?
I can confirm. So funny enough, I made a whole video about this back in like April, I think, or March. And 2 days, I think 2 days before I put that video out, one of the people from our community was like, "Oh, I ran into Tony." They actually, they saw him out at dinner somewhere, in Austin, Texas. And it was right before I was like, okay, so probably we should get like an update or something. And they ran into him and he was talking about stuff. And he's like, yeah, we're working on things and all this stuff. And I was just like, what's the timing of that?
So it's not like a man in the iron mask situation where they met him out at dinner. Okay.
Yes. Well, somebody who says it was him.
Well, yeah, no,
it's a CIG
I'm not good
conspiracy.
with faces. Like if I ran into Tony Z, I would have no idea that it was Tony Z. So
that's fair. I doubt most people recognize the devs from the games they play. I can say I probably wouldn't recognize any devs from any games I play except for this one because I cover it.
Yeah, that's why I just blanket statement release the Drake Lobster whenever I run into somebody wearing a CIG name tag.
That'll get them.
It's like, I know you're probably in, quality assurance or localization, but just in case, I'm going to ask for the Drake Lobster.
You're like, dude, I'm in HR.
Yeah,
it's not for me.
That's fine. That's fine. You can send a passive aggressive email about the lobster.
So I found that mention of the economy stuff on the monthly report. This is from the June monthly report, so this was just released a couple days ago. It says, as mentioned in last month's report, the team has been working to rebalance the prices for entire sets of items, including vehicle components, FPS weapon attachments, ammunition, consumables, and commodities. Then they go on to say, this is the part we were talking about before the show, the team's ongoing work involves a new economy for quantum and hydrogen fuel to ensure that refueling isn't a chore while maintaining the narrative feel of a large universe with unique economies spread across different star systems. So what do you take that to mean?
I think that's going to mean that quantum fuel now costs $30 instead of $12. Okay, though, I think they need to actually raise the price on fuel because, I don't know about you guys, but hydrogen feels like it's kind of priced okay. Quantum fuel, it's like, yes, it costs more to buy a T-shirt than it does to jump a caterpillar across the galaxy. And I get it because if you're poor starting out, you need to still be able to go places. But fuel prices have just felt like a joke ever since we got them. Really,
you don't really consider them.
Fuel.
I don't even look at the price of fuel.
It's tuppence. It's absolute tuppence. I've lost more in hot dogs in Star Citizen.
Ooh.
I have spent more on hot dogs in Star Citizen than I have quantum fuel.
It's a good life choice.
Yeah, those are 3 UEC each, but a lot of hot dogs. But it's just I feel like the pricing needs to make it feel more realistic, and especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere, prices should be a little bit higher because you're out in the middle of nowhere.
When they
instead of sorry, go ahead.
No. Continue.
Just if you're like Arc L5 or whatever, maybe you should pay just a little bit more because you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're definitely not sticking around Arc L5.
Yeah. Nobody needs to be out there.
Yeah.
When they say that they are involved in making a new economy for the fuel, do you think that just means that they want to make sure that the fuel is more controlled than the regular economy will allow?
Maybe. Maybe they'll actually measure where people are refueling and adjust prices dynamically for that. Because right now, if you look at standard trade commodities, the prices on those can vary wildly. It's not just low price, high price. There's a whole graph that they can go up and down on.
Mm-hmm.
And fuel in both types, hydrogen and quantum, has only ever had a low price or a high price and nothing in between. And figuring out what was causing those prices was just kind of like an arbitrary. It's someone refueled here. The price will be high for 10 minutes. It's back to its low price.
Yeah, that's...
So it would be nice to really see things that cause prices to go up and down besides one person refueling.
It's kind of I hope that it is still affected by us, because it would be cool to be, say you have your org is going to do a mission in a specific star system. So before that mission starts, like if it's a big battle, like an event, like a Xenothreat, but in a different star system, and you know your org's going to be out there with a bunch of fighters, you know they're going to be flying around, they're going to need repairs and fuel. It would be cool if you could then contract other org members to just bulk ship a ton of fuel out to that station and drop the pricing, so that when everybody else gets out there eventually they can benefit from that. And like it's because you kind of did that planning and you know that economy that you could do something like that.
Exactly. Or like, you know, if you're like an org starfare, it's like, hey, swing by Mike L1, fuel is cheap, go fuel up there.
Yeah,
we'll use the starfare because this fight's going to be over at ArcCorp, but ArcCorp prices are ridiculous. So just being able to do like pre-planning with that would be so nice.
ArcCorp's ridiculous with everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Who makes an Ecumenopolis? Who does that?
What is that?
Just a planet of city. Coruscant.
I mean, you know, I was gonna say Coruscant, but yeah. No, I got issues with the timeline on ArcCorp being built into an entire city planet. Like,
you know, they changed the timeline because of that, right?
Did they?
Yeah, it was originally.
I haven't seen the new timeline.
I think it was originally the planet was found like maybe 80 years prior to the game, but then they changed the timeline to like 120 years or something like that, which is still really, really, really fast for something like that. But it's also, it's kind of like, okay, they've had 800 years of development. They're looking at the Xi'an on how to construct planets, and the corporations went crazy when this space system was found. So like they have the things in there to kind of explain it, but it is a little funny that it's a whole planet.
Yeah, like we have an entire manufacturing planet and 120 years. It's like you guys didn't leave a tree at all.
They
There's
hate trees.
Like,
trees. Get rid of them all.
I just like no pond, no tree,
They're gonna redo it. They're gonna add some wilderness in there. At least they say.
I love ArcCorp. That's where I base out of, because it's the fastest to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess doesn't really spread any love about it, but yeah, no, it's my favorite because I can leave it the fastest.
I can get out of there.
Yeah, and you know, maybe I'll stick around once we actually have trees. Like, it's weird that it's the only place to get turtles. Like, out of all the planets that we can go to, aside from the cargo centers, it's the only place you can find a turtle.
Why can you find turtles at cargo centers?
There's a little secret. I don't know if you've seen it, but whenever you go to like a cargo center at the low orbit stations,
the secret room.
Yeah, the break room. Yeah.
Okay.
Always
I thought you meant they were like selling them.
Oh,
like,
no,
why?
no.
Why are you doing
God,
this?
if they were selling turtles, you think I'd be doing cargo?
It'd be the
C2s
turtle
full of turtles. Yeah.
Well, you do cargo, but your claim to fame is good landings, right? Don't you flip?
I mean, yeah.
So I mean,
And
every flipping ship needs a turtle in it.
yeah, exactly. Turtles always land on their feet,
It's
or at least their shell.
common knowledge.
Yeah.
Jack,
And what you got for me?
do we need a dynamic economy for cargo hauling to be fun?
No, we don't.
What makes fun cargo hauling?
What makes fun cargo hauling is not a dynamic economy, but options to happen while hauling. Like, they could have an entirely planned out, totally fake economy that just rotates good stuff like every few days. And as long as things aren't stagnating, as long as things are changing, I think it would make things fun. Now, a dynamic economy can do that, but just having one that's planned as well, because again, it's a video game. Having something that actually changes where you're going and what you're doing in a reasonable amount of time, I think is going to make it more fun than having players take advantage of a dynamic economy for their own gain. So, like, let's say for a few days, holy crap, there's super cheap aluminum from one place to another. Everybody's hauling that.
Hmm.
There's going to be alternatives to that. So it's like, well, while those guys are getting pirated for their aluminum, I'm going to go haul my tungsten here. And then suddenly, bam, tungsten's a new thing. It's like, oh crap, well, I got to get off that now. Time to go haul some iron.
There's some
And
thinking involved.
yeah, as long like giving it just enough to where you can either try to take advantage of the big rush, take advantage of something that is not as profitable but much safer, and having to keep on top of that instead of what we've had. Because like for the last like that last half year now, we've had RMC, recycled material, composite, whatever. And that's been the big thing to run. Oh, you want to make big money? Run RMC, and it's basically discounted Jumptown. Actually, no, it's better than Jumptown, but it still feels stale. You've got three things to do basically: run RMC, run some gold, or if you want to be super safe, run barrel. And
Yeah.
you're going to the same places, doing the same pickups. And while the first two are fun because it's like, oh, I could be pirated, I should be, bring friends, escorts. It hasn't really changed up what you're doing. You're going to the exact same places. You've got two places to go to. Gold, you've got, well, two places to go to. And it just feels stagnant. And having a new place to show up to each time you run, I feel like really gives it a breath of fresh air because you're running into different people, different places, different environments. Like, I don't know about you, but I hate going to Ida just because of the sheer amount of wind every time you land.
Uh-huh.
And just having change that gets put in, whether it's dynamic or not, I feel like makes it more fun.
Having to switch up your trade routes based on what's going on in the game is really cool. It can obviously, it's like, oh, I want to sit on this one trade route and just keep milking it for months on end, but it is cool to, like, imagine if your trade route changes because Xenothreat happened and repair prices went up in some part of the space and you're like, oh, okay, I'll go there instead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh no, Xenothreat invaded, I don't know, Woodruff on Ida because God knows they've got nothing better to do. It's like, okay, well, either we fight that, avoid that, or go take advantage of prices elsewhere. And that's nice. That's fun. I would love to see that.
It kind of feels like Blockade Runner is testing that out as an event.
Yeah, which we haven't really got to look at that one yet. I want to. It's supposed to be in the patch, but I don't think we'll see that for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. They're being a little mum about it. What else in the cargo hauling loop? Because this is, and my reasoning for this whole question, this path of questioning we're doing right now is there are a lot of comments about how this is changing. And this is something that's happening with a lot of different parts of Star Citizen right now. I think because those systems they've been building and preparing for are finally starting to come in. People are finally starting to realize what kind of game this is turning into. And a lot of folks think, this might kill the game. This is not what people want. This is not what cargo hauling is about. And I think a lot of people do know that you are a cargo hauler. You make a lot of content around it. And while you don't speak for everybody, your opinion is valid on this, I think. And I want to get to the crux of what really makes the gameplay around cargo hauling, whether it's the changing prices or the picking up of boxes or the places you're going, what makes it fun. So let's dive into the more deep parts of this, the carrying boxes around, looking at actual pricing. How does that get entertaining for you versus just monotonous?
Okay, so I'm going to double back on some things that I've already said.
All right.
But to start off, have you ever played Truck Simulator?
I've seen quite a bit, but I haven't played it myself.
Okay. So let me paint you a picture, all right?
Pretty picture.
All right. Sun's coming up on a desert highway. You're in your truck. You've got a load that you got to get somewhere in about 6 hours. You've got 5 hours to do it. And trying to cut those little corners to get the cargo you need somewhere while not getting in trouble, keeping the cargo safe, doing every little thing you can along the way to keep it going when everything else is going wrong is what makes it exciting. And I don't mean like, oh, you're getting shot at or things are going at, like engineering style gameplay. It's like, oh no, I've got a flat tire. Oh no, I've got to pull over for a way station. Oh no, I've got to do this. These little things that add up. And then you finally pull it off. And it's not exhilarating gameplay. It's satisfying gameplay. It's the illusion of the open road. And you are basically pulling a caravan from one place way on to another. And the only thing that you've got with you is a janky radio, the open highway, and a timetable that doesn't exactly make sense. And translating that into space, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Space Truckers, which does a horrible job of representing actual trucking, but it's a satisfying style of gameplay. And I'm sure Star Citizen will get more into the nitty gritty details of it, like engineering being introduced to trucking. I think would be great. It's like, even if you're not in combat, it's like, oh, I'm in quantum. Suddenly a fuse is blown. Got to drop out, repair that, get back out on the road. I would like to see more. I want to see more actual flight time when it comes to trucking in Star Citizen.
Okay. See, now that's where the people are like, I don't want to sit in quantum and
no, I'm not talking like actual
is wasting
quantum,
my time.
Like imagine, if you will, that you could only jump to orbital markers, and you actually had to do like the long flight down to places. Now, maybe not for planets, because you jump at like Hurston, and it's like, oh, I got to go 1,000 kilometers slow boating to get to Lorville. But like with moons and whatnot, basically, like you come out of quantum, you jump to a place on a moon, you spend 2 minutes flying, and that's it. But if you got rid of those orbital if you got rid of like jumping directly to like an outpost, you just had the orbital markers, and you had to fly down. Like that's going to give you a lot more of those, I would say, like trucking style moments of like the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that would make it a little bit more fun. I probably went off on a tangent there. But
No. You're making sense. I think there are a lot of places where I would there needs to be more real space time flying. As a pilot, you don't want to just be sitting in front of the console watching quantum space go by the whole time.
Exactly. And like there's gonna be a little bit of that. I get that. But I want a lot more of the flight in there,
Okay.
Having to pay attention to what I'm doing. Now again, that's just my opinion. I don't talk for everybody. I just want a lot more opportunities for something to happen, I guess is a good way to put it.
Little distress beacons that pop up that maybe you can take. Honestly, it sounds like you're describing the story of how Han Solo got famous, right? Like that was his whole thing. He had to go run a ridiculous route and do it fast, and they made a whole story. They made a movie about it, and it's like, well, this is literally just an A to B cargo run.
Everything cool that happened to Han Solo happened over a weekend, but according to one movie.
But then you go and you look at like the coil in Squadron 42 or in the Odin system, the big gas cloud thing. Like that would be cool to have to try and fly a weird cargo run through that.
Oh yeah, I would love to do that.
Or like one of our supporters in the live show here mentioned in chat, the Air and Halo belt will eventually have gates controlled by ArcCorp that you have to stop to fly through in order to transit that asteroid belt normally. Because as we've been seeing in some other reports and stuff, we're going to have obstacles in quantum travel that could actually pull us out, I think.
That'll be nice. Besides the one NPC Mantis and Cutlass that does it right now.
Yeah. But a lot of these things we're describing are the things that people think are going to very much hurt the game. And these are kind of more about the cargo hauling mechanics. Do you think that this stuff is going to make regular gameplay for players less fun or drive people away?
I don't think so. I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, I don't know. You ask Spectrum, every small change is apocalyptic. Um, but I don't think it would hurt gameplay. Like, as long as we can see changes that aren't the forced combat that we always see. Um,
It's
I don't
forced
think it'll hurt it at
box
all.
combat.
Yeah, no, okay, now that I'm okay with. You know, throwing boxes at each other with tractor beams, but yeah, like no, I don't think it's gonna mess it up. And there's always going to be ways to get around things. Um, there's always going to be an alternative.
You think casual players will be able to avoid this kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, dog legging alone lets you avoid 99% of piracy. Like as long as you can get off an outpost without getting shot at, usually you're golden. As long as you know what you're doing, and I feel like that'll apply for other things as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, last bit on what makes this fun. The actual moving of your of the boxes from, let's see. So in space stations and cities, it'll be your hangar, but at outposts, it might be from some place to your landing pad. No
Yes.
matter what, though, you have to transport these boxes from one place to your ship to get going, and then again when you land. What makes that fun for you? Why is that something that you want?
It's the improving the efficiency of logistics. Like I don't know if you ever played like a Factorio or things like that on Steam.
Satisfactory.
But like like Satisfactory. It's the how efficient can you make the loading and unloading? That's the fun part. Um, like for example, right now, all the freight elevators at open outposts are attached directly to the pad. So all your cargo comes up right there at the pad. Let's say you're in something like a Caterpillar. You can just stand on the lift gates on the side, load it directly into the ship, and it makes it so much easier. You're in something like a, I don't know, freelancer, Corsair, whatever, something that backloads. You might have to rotate the entire ship just so you can actually get it to line up to the back. If you don't have to walk around and do like multi-point loading or like walking the whole freight.
Yeah.
And it sounds boring. I know it sounds boring in talk, but figuring out the most efficient and quickest way to load it is part of the fun of the loading and unloading. Or just having to work with each individual ship that you're using. Because with a hull A, you just slap it on the side.
Right.
Just pull right up to it. It's super easy. And with a if you see like the weird grid on the SRV, the weird underside thing it has, but that not so much. And just working with each difference that you have is what makes it fun, and figuring out the most efficient way.
I think that's one of the key parts of this game. You can't find really another game that has a bunch of drastically differently designed spaceships with inside and outsides with functional advantages. Like you said, the raft, the hull A, the hull C can load boxes from the outside, whereas the freelancer, you might take longer to load it, but you have more protection. Then you've got ships that have VTOL, ships that have better armor, like the Terrapin for different atmospheres, and like all these things that kind of make you think about the ship you're flying in addition to how you're flying it and what you're using it to transport.
Yeah.
It goes back to that idea that you said. It's thinking. I
mean, heck, you could haul in the Terrapin if you want to. Like, you don't even need cargo grids anymore. Buying your cargo actually goes off. Sorry, to slip another tangent. Buying your cargo is no longer ship dependent.
Yeah.
It is dependent on the warehouse at the location you're at. So you could actually buy 500 SCU of something and try to throw it into your Terrapin. It's not going to fit, but you could do it. So you can actually stuff, like, overload ships now. You are no longer bound by the amount they have on an SCU grid.
That's actually a really good point. I didn't even think about that because it's not getting put into your ship. You don't have to worry about the fact that your ship can't fit it. Now,
Yeah.
nobody wants to get
Like-
crushed by let's contact OSHA because nobody wants to get crushed by a box you just kind of threw under your
Yeah.
ship. But like you have the capability now.
Like if you want to, avoid certain safety inspections, you can load over 800 SCU into a C2 now. I don't know if I'd do it, but you can. So go wild, be greedy, and that's the other part too. It's like, man, how much more can I fit in this ship?
Yeah, I was asking people the other day, how much cargo can you fit on the C1? And somebody's like 64. Somebody else is like 80. And somebody's like, oh no, 100. I'm like, okay, guys, what's the rating?
Yeah, it's like, there's the official, and then there's the how much more can we really get in this?
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure if you took the time, you could squeeze 1,000 into a C2.
This all is just, it's really exciting. I mean, I have thought about this a lot. I've talked about this a lot, but even in this conversation, it's really kind of starting to become apparent just how deep this could really be, even so quickly too. Like I've been thinking it's not going to get deep until we have, very complex reputation ladders, or maybe another star system with some exclusive commodities, or just more damageable and temperature prone commodities. But even just the routes, the routes that we're running and the places we're going sound like they can really mix things up.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm excited for.
All right.
Really hope we get the trade changes next week, but yeah.
Yeah, same here. So I've got a question for you then, or a few questions on complexity. One of the big things that I feel we've always been missing in this game is a way to even understand all this information. We talk about you might be running this safe commodity on this route and suddenly everybody else starts running it, so you realize, okay, I've got to go and do something else. But there's no real way for players to even find that out, to find out what's more dangerous or what's more safe besides going to the website or Spectrum or something and asking. What do you think? Like, do you think we're going to get an in-game solution to that, or we always have to depend on these third-party websites?
They've mentioned it. They've mentioned that they want to try to make things first party, where you can actually research that in game. However, I have not seen any sort of resources dedicated to that. Like we had the journal that came out. It's like, oh, medical supplies, food, and distilled spirits. Here's the prices on those. But it didn't really give you proper context. Like it was like a first step that never really seemed to get improved upon. And like I said, while they've mentioned it, we haven't really seen anything on it. So while I'm sure we'll eventually get something, for now, you just really have to rely on third-party stuff. And it's probably going to be like that for a while.
I hate that.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
I'm not a fan of it. Like, because things like Elite Dangerous, they have so many different resources that actually get pulled directly from the API, and Star Citizen doesn't want that, and I'm fine with that because when you're the developer, you want the information to come first party. But as much as I hate to say it, it's probably too early for them to implement that.
Yeah, I think so.
Because
they don't even know what they're doing. Well, they know what they're doing. They don't even know like the final system.
Yeah, so I will wait for that. I don't want to, but eventually we'll have it. Just for now, all we have is a crappy journal.
It's just a bummer because somebody is going to see this, especially whatever trailer they come up with this patch, or like the content that you might put out or people might put out just to show this stuff off. They might see this and think, freaking finally, an in-depth immersive space trucker simulation. They jump into the game and then they're like, how do I even find out where to truck?
Like that's my issue. Like, I can't call up, a place and be like, hey, what's the price on titanium before I get there? Let me go ahead and buy. Like in the far future, we don't have phones. Can't call up Pizza Hut. See the going rate of a pizza. Yeah.
You can only put out a transportation beacon.
We're not playing Diablo on mobile. I've got a beeper
Oh
come
gosh.
pick me up.
Oh geez, a classic reference, but a good one. I catch that.
It's my favorite one. It's always going to be my favorite one. But
Such a bad
yeah,
thing
like
to say.
it's like, why would you
Oh my
host
god.
a convention for people that famously play a PC game and then do that? Yeah, no.
You guys don't have phones? What? Sir?
It's like, no, we've got like $3,000 PCs that we play your MMO on.
That was bad.
But yeah, no, like eventually we'll get it. Just until then, it'll be all third party stuff, clickbait YouTube videos, Spectrum posts, and various websites.
And that's more something I do like that seems like they're headed in the direction of is they're using missions as a tutorial, as an introduction to the sandbox gameplay we might like. And one of the big things about this is that they are combining two systems that have lived separately: the career missions, the box mission system, and the actual commodity trading where you could buy and sell stuff. And now they're allowing both of those things to coexist in the same system with the same commodities, but you don't have to pay to do missions and you don't have to be assigned to do commodity trading. So my question to you is, we've talked about missions this whole time. Are you going to start to do those more, or are you going to still stick to commodity trading?
I'm still going to stick to commodity trading, but with the hauling missions coming in, I'm going to invest a bunch of time into that just because it's something fresh, it's new, it's enjoyable, and I want to try it out. Like, shoot, I've got a mission for me, specifically for me. I got to go do that. Like at this point, I'm honor bound, so I'm still going to be doing a ton of trading, but hauling something, like doing an actual hauling mission, just sounds so fun that at least for this patch, I am going to be doing a ton of that just because it's nice to actually participate in missions. Because like I have gone, like I've got entire patches without ever doing an actual mission where it's just trade,
Yeah.
So it's nice to have something that is in my vein of gameplay, but is different. So yeah, no, I'm not backing off trading. I'm still going to be keeping on top of that, but there's going to be a lot of hauling still.
I hope that the trading is improved too. I hope that
you and me both.
We've had all this talk about economy, and I really do hope that there are reasons to trade besides just finding more stuff to do. It seems like there's a lot of potential in what they've been saying about, like, they talked about how you'll be able to find certain resources at certain moons. They mentioned that points of interest are becoming consumers, producers, and transformers of resources. All these things about an economy and how it works. But we don't actually know how much of that is changing in 3.24. And I guess I'm just realizing, saying this, that the economy is really what defines that commodity trading stuff. Like, we're happy about the missions, but
yeah,
the other side of it is not going to progress as much without an economy that makes sense.
Well, we've had a little bit of a preview of it, like when they changed the prices of, like, what goes where. Like, gold sells the most at ArcCorp. Barrel sells the most at Horizon for some reason. They just never really got a justification as to why, except just arbitrary, price differences. But yeah, no, I do want to see a lot more of that, and probably won't have anything to talk about that way until next week when they start plugging it in. Hopefully, they start plugging it in next week.
But that's actually, you made a good point there. They have been testing it. They've been trying something along the lines of what they want to do. They just didn't actually get the logic built in.
Yeah, and I can wait. It's been 10 years for me. I can wait 2 more weeks.
What do you think they could do? I mean, we're kind of turning back to the economy, I guess, here, but what do you think they could do to make it dynamic without the full quantum simulation?
I mean, if they just randomize the prices every few days, I would be okay with that. But what I would like to see, just to make it feel more real, I'm even going to bring the word in fidelity. News tickers. I don't know if you ever played Elite Dangerous.
Yeah, I have.
But, there's the whole news thing that goes across, like, oh, this place just got blown up. They're looking for a rush of metals. So it's like, oh
Yeah.
no, ArcCorp is coming out with a new quantum drive. They need beryl and gold, and having that simulated rush to bring stuff in and a reason to do it would go so far for me.
That's a really good idea. I love that news ticker. I also like an Elite Dangerous when you're flying around and like sometimes you'll see the comms of
Oh yes,
a cruise ship that's like giving some kind of directions to the people and like, oh, look outside and this is what's going on. It makes the game feel so alive.
Yes, like, we're in the top 2%. Oh, my favorite one.
Yeah, I like that stuff. Okay, here's an interesting one. The time to load the ships. I'd love to get your opinion on this. This goes more to the commodity trading than the missions, because this is kind of you buy the stuff and you figure out how to load it.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think should be the handicap of using automatic loading?
It should be the time and the price involved. Right now, and again, this is Evo, so it's not, it's subject to change. But right now, the timers are terrible. Again, subject to change. But right now, the timer is 30 seconds per SCU, no matter the size of the box. So
that's just weird. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to load 32 SCU into a Cutlass and you choose two 16 SCU boxes, it still takes 16 minutes to load it up. No matter the box orientation. It takes 5 hours and 20 minutes to load a C2. And the thing that irks me is I can do that solo in 20 minutes. So I don't know if someone is just hornswoggling all my money for an extra break or what.
Was it Hurston?
But it's it's everywhere. It's like they're all in on it.
I guess, yeah. UEE thing.
Yeah. So while I feel like time, like, okay, the timer should be long enough to where if I did it myself, or if I had a crew, obviously I could do it faster. But if you just don't want to mess with it, or if you could have tiers, like if I could pay, Joey and the other station ragamuffins to do it, and it would be cheap but slow, or pay for like higher tier, more experience, like I can get it fast but not cheap. Like if I could just have the tier system, that would be perfect, just to have the options.
Yeah.
It's like right now it's like, oh, it only costs 3,000 to auto load a C2, but it's going to take 5 hours. And it's like, my grandmother could do that faster, and we buried her last year.
So what would you say then is a realistic kind of time to, like, 20% of the average player loading speed for an automatic load, 50% like added on the top? Or
yeah, like, one, it should be based on the size of the box. Like 32 SCU boxes, like 32 1 SCU boxes should not take the exact same time as a single 32 SCU box.
Absolutely.
So it should be based on that box size, box orientation, and maybe if we could just sprinkle a little bit of razzle dazzle, a few seconds shaved off or added on depending on the ship. Because, like, okay, Caterpillar, I love it. It's awkward to load. So, like, even though it's less SCU than a C2, maybe it should take like a minute or two longer. It shouldn't take 5 hours, but just being an awkward bulkhead, it should have quirks between ships that decide, how quickly it is to load.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like a tiering system. Like if I could pay it, fast and expensive, or slow and cheap, just like, with refining.
Yeah.
Or just like a nice little mix in between.
I just sent you over an early work in progress they made of a kind of potential screen for this, where it shows the ability to hire workers to reduce the time.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah. I do wonder, how long do you think it'll be before NPCs are literally moving these boxes onto the ships? Because then you don't even have to calculate that time difference. You just depend on the NPC's pathing, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think we'll ever get there.
Yeah.
I think it'll always be if we're paying the NPCs, it'll be stored because right now for the timers to go through, the ship has to be stored and you can't call
I
it
see.
out till it is. And why animate that? Why go through all that?
Because Star Citizen, Jack. You remember we've seen it, right? We in that AI sprint report, Star Citizen Live, they showed the AI that was picking up the boxes and stuff. They want to.
Yeah, okay. You remember when we had to wait for like bartenders for a year? And when's the last time you saw a bartender do anything? I would rather them. Okay. Looking at the screenshot that nobody else can see.
Yeah.
I would rather my NPC guy that is loading my cargo just be this nebulous portrait of a guy who I never actually have to see a model of, just to save all that extra work. Because we've had NPCs standing on chairs for years now. How can I trust an NPC to load my cargo?
Well, geez, man. I mean, I hope at some point we can trust NPCs to do stuff in the game.
Give me a timer, put a portrait on it, name it Gary. I'm good.
Oh, Gary.
Just give me those. Just give me little BattleTech style portraits of NPCs. I'll have Horkvar load my ship.
Horkvar.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I'm there with you. I've always been a champion of, like, I love the idea of being able to have a crew loading your ship and you go in and you watch them, like going all the way back to that original Freelancer trailer. I think that's a big fantasy of cargo haulers, but at the same time, we just want to get it done. And if that needs to be something that comes later, so be it.
And, God forbid, if unloading the cargo comes down to a server-dependent NPC and they stop working, it's just one of those extra systems that could get in the way of actually getting things done.
Yeah, that's why you gotta pay that extra for the client side NPC.
Exactly.
Whatever that means.
Exactly. And by that it's your little brother or an unfortunate org member that happened to be online at the time.
The box monkeys, we call them in our org.
Yeah.
Speaking of team NPCs and all that stuff, this is cargo hauling is like we're talking about this very much in that single player sort of format, but they're releasing ships like the Ironclad, the Hull Seas, and Up, the C2. These are ships that aren't meant to be solo flown. They need help on turrets. They need help moving boxes. You need security sometimes if you get boarded. How do you think this gets balanced when you start introducing more people? Because people are not going to want to have people on their ships, but there needs to be some understanding that has to happen, and then the payout has to accommodate for that.
Making friends in your late 20s and 30s is so hard, and yet Star Citizen seems to want to encourage it.
Thank you for that, CIG.
Yeah.
Not sure we can accomplish that, but we'll try.
Yeah, like tabletop games seem to attract people who are very introverted. Like, it's an introverted game that requires you to meet other people. And Star Citizen decided to go down that exact same route where it's like, hey, you there, guy who likes flying solo. You want to fly your big cargo ship? Guess what? You need friends. And yeah, like, I mean, there's always orgs. I know not everybody wants to join an org.
Yeah.
But failing having NPCs to do all that, which goes back to the previous topic. That's a real good question. That's a real question. AI blades and a winning personality, I guess, is what you're going to need if you want to fly those big ships.
It's an interesting thing because multi-crew cargo hauling has to be a thing.
Yeah.
But
it really needs to be.
You have to have like a level of danger, right? A level of chance that you need an escort or you need somebody on your ship who can take the turrets.
Yeah.
And that means that there is a chance you get attacked. But if you don't get attacked and you bring those people in there, how many times are you actually going to bring those people along again if you realize that you can run the route safely? So
yeah, I mean, they're an insurance policy, and
yeah,
you get attacked 1 out of 20 times, and it's like, if I get to keep all the money to myself, is it really worth bringing them for that one time that I get attacked? And of course, the one time you get attacked, you'll Alt F4 and go pour a drink, and then go make an angry post on Reddit. But honestly, okay, for me, I think it's worth it just for the camaraderie, for the interaction.
It's good times.
Sometimes you just want to do it by yourself, and that's when you can take a smaller ship. But I understand that not everybody is as extroverted, so it really just depends on the individual person. And I really hope by the time they get their big ships that AI has come far enough along to where they can do their own thing. At the very least, for turrets.
That, though, starts to get more into that pay-to-win conversation.
Yeah.
Because then you can just buy a ship, and there's no real restriction of you doing, and God, I know this, even saying that is going to get a lot of comments about that. When I say pay-to-win, I'm not talking about some kind of win scenario. You're not beating anybody else. My point is, if you pay to buy a big ship that requires 5 people, and you don't actually need 5 people, that ship is getting you ahead of the ship that you would have gotten for that needed 1 person, but it allows you to do more. And I think that there does need to be some balance there in terms of what you can do with that big ship on your own versus what you can do if you go through the work of acquiring people to man it. But maybe the costs of NPC crew will account for that.
Yeah, and like, I really hope that that the cost of like paying an NPC really does balance that out. Like, okay. There's a game called Tachyon the Fringe, old space game, and you could hire NPCs to be wingmen for you. Like, there was the initial cost, there was a percentage cost per mission that you did, and I really hope that we see stuff like that. So it's not just like, oh, I can buy an NPC and basically just have like a bot that I never actually have to pay again. Like, they need to have skill level that makes it worthwhile, that actually evens it out between players. The money penalty. Just yeah. Like, I don't want it to be pay to win. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna have my ironclad and all of my NPCs that I've paid for, and just never have to interact with another person unless I'm shooting them. And no, sorry. It should be people.
No,
It should be people.
There's a balance to it, and it's a hard one I think that they'll have to hit because it's an MMO and they want to have people play together. There are definitely things in this game that you won't experience if you don't play with other people, but like you said, not only is it's not necessarily feasible to expect everybody to play with other people all the time, but it's also you can't get people online at the same time. Like this podcast, the timing that we have to do to make it happen is weird. And for a lot of people, maybe if they've moved or if they're just in a different place in the world than their friends, they might be playing while everybody else is working. And what are you going to do?
It's like, it's just, suddenly you've got that, I call it the solo ship cutoff. Like, how big of a ship can you get into solo? Like, Freelancer, sure. Cutlass, sure. Caterpillar, maybe.
Yeah.
But,
start getting up
basically
there.
Choose what you can solo comfortably, and then maybe push it from there if you want a rocket single.
Last thing I wanted to touch on was during their live show working on this last week, and I'm bummed that the Star Citizen Live got canceled because we would have had, I think, a lot more to talk about today. But
God, yes, you and me both. I wanted to see that so bad.
Yeah. I think we'll have to do a little follow up once this all goes live and we get a little more time with it. But one of the things they mentioned that was really interesting is that all the commodities at all locations will have missions spawned for them, which sounds like a ton of cargo missions available to players to take. Do you think it's going to get overwhelming?
Yes. Yes, it is. It's going to get stupidly overwhelming. Okay, so if you have that at every location, just remember, most outposts only have all outposts only have 1 to 2 pads. And sometimes that fills up right now when you're just doing a grab and go. The average player isn't going to be doing, cargo Olympics where they're loading their ship in under 45 seconds. So if you have a bunch of people showing up, 1, to trade, whether to buy their own cargo, and then 2, the haulers who are showing up to, drop off and load, and you only have 2 pads at each location, someone only having 1 pad and 1 freight elevator, that's going to be chaos where you have to sit there and wait for someone else to load or unload, and then other people come along. And I don't know if it's going to be fun, but it's going to be interesting because there's going to be those people that start a bit of chaos just so they can get on with their thing and not have to worry about the people in front of them.
Right. Yeah.
And, I'd like to see what CIG is going to do about that, because right now you can cause some absolute chaos in those open pads. But I feel like it's going to make it where there's a lot more population at outposts, for better or for worse. And that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm wondering how they might gate those missions or allow people to see them, or even just like allow you to filter them on the contract manager so you're not getting 40 cargo missions in one row. But yeah, the open air aspect of the outposts makes a big difference. I think they'll have to expand the outposts, and we've seen them talk about, the different outposts coming to Pyro, how they'll take what they've learned there and bring it back to Stanton, probably expand these outposts. But it still is, you're right, it feels like it's going to come to running down out of space.
Yeah.
And maybe they need to downgrade how much activity is going to outposts in order to make it more believable.
Which, I mean, I'm sure we'll see some teething issues this patch.
Oh, yeah.
And they can refine from there. But I'm excited for it. I don't know if I'll have fun with that particular part, but I'm excited to see how it goes. Like, it'll be an interesting time. Yeah.
Especially when they start removing Armistice and using in-game security for these things.
I'm welcoming that, actually.
Yeah, same here. As soon as we get AI working well enough to secure these places with security instead of Armistice, I am happy for it, because I hate the tractor beam limitations. I hate not being able to test a gun when I want to somewhere, like all that kind of stuff. And maybe they could even put like timers on landing pads to say, if you go past this amount of length for the job you're working, we might tow your ship. We'll send out an SRV mission to tow your ship.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but SRV towing abandoned ships and salvaging them is no longer illegal in the latest patch.
Abandoned as in like they don't have a name assigned to them anymore?
Yeah, like basically if the owner logs out, then you're good to go. No, I'm not exactly sure how that affects like outpost green zones, like hard armistice versus soft armistice. But it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. I'm seeing in chat that the tractor beam restrictions are coming off, so that's good.
Yes. Yeah, tractor beam restrictions are coming off. So you can tractor beam everywhere inside Armistice. You can actually do it inside stations right now, too. So,
have they even changed anything to keep that from being used? Like, before they were very scared of that being used because the first patch, it was just a mess.
who knows? Who knows?
Okay. All right.
Who knows? Evocati is very, you're not really allowed to antagonize people unless they have given you permission.
Mm-hmm.
So no one's really been super antagonistic with it yet. So we'll see what happens in Wave 1.
We will see. That's always a good way to live. Jack, that about wraps it up for today. Honestly, I want to keep going because there's a lot more to talk about. But I think another talk maybe later in the season after this patch goes live and we get more time to get hands-on with it would be great. But as I've been saying this whole time, you are a go-to cargo hauler with a lot of content on it. So can you give the people a little rundown of what you do and where they can find your work?
Of course, I like to move a couple of boxes, trading just about every day over on YouTube. Find me just typing in Jack Axton. I'm the big yellow box. And when I'm not doing that, I'm 360 no scoping reclaimers into. I saw that box also briefly.
Subliminal
360
messaging.
no scoping some reclaimers into the hangars at Area 18 or other ships that I should not be backflipping into hangars. And on a good week, that's Monday through Friday. But I'm good at skipping those days too. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube.
What's the name again? YouTube.com/
Jack Axton.
Jack Axton. Okay.
Literally just Jack Axton. Keep it simple.
I hope that the control surfaces don't mess up your spectacular landings when those come in.
I'll just work around it. That makes it fun. Adapting, you know?
You get to stall the ship out now and figure out how to land off that. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good. All right, man.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for this talk. Gosh, it's kind of crazy to finally be at this point after 2 years almost of the Cargo Refactor. This feels like it's the culmination we've been waiting for, the real hitting Cargo Refactor, not just like throwing in a couple boxes and inventories and stuff. We didn't even get to inventory conversation today. I was going to talk about that. But no, this was all cargo haul and mission talk, and I think it was a good one. So thanks again for joining me for this one, Jack. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And thank you, everybody, for watching or listening if you're on audio platforms, which we are keeping ad-free. Thank you to the supporters who help us keep that ad-free. And thanks to the supporters who are in here watching live. If you guys are members on YouTube, Patreon, Twitch, Ko-fi, you can always join us for the live podcast every week, along with other perks like your referral code in our referral code program and exclusive videos every month. But this is the podcast where the good things happen. Good folks come to talk about their professions. And Jack, this was, I think, a lot of really good information. So once again, thank you to yourself. Thank you to everybody who was watching. And I will see you all next week.
Thank you. Also, I'm going to say right quick that my headphones have just died. So this is a wonderful time to wrap it up. That was perfect timing.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at that timing. No problem. No problem. And I realize you probably can't hear me. So we will go now. Thank you again, everybody. See you all next week.